Hi friends, good evening. So I'm back with strategic management fast track revision batch for November 2020 students. I hope you're with me and I hope you all are studying with me. It's already 3 days is over to this day 4 and we are done with chapter 1 completely. We are done with chapter 3 and we have started with chapter 2 and yesterday we have done a majority part of chapter 2. I hope you're with me. Yes, and I hope all are well, all are safe. Please be ensure that you all are safe. Stay home, stay safe. Am I clear? Okay, and please do study. Okay, so let's start. So whatever we did yesterday we were done with part 3 of chapter 2, which was a very big part. With part 3, what had to be understood that for analysis you have to do external as well as internal. And when I say external, it means industry and competitive analysis. Industry and competitive analysis, and with that we had understood various issues. So what are the issues? And with that issues, we had understood many terms as in like product life cycle, experience curve, then strategic group mapping, then key factors of success, and Michael Porter's 5 force model of competition. Am I clear? Am I clear? So now let's come to next part of chapter 2. Today we will be completing chapter 2 and if time permits we'll start with chapter 4 also. Am I clear? Okay. Okay, so let's come to part 4. I've already given you part day for yesterday. So part 4 includes two questions, question number 5 and question number 6. And why is question number 5 and question number 6 important? Because 5 and 6 has been added in the new syllabus and it was not there in the old syllabus. 5 and 6 is added in the new syllabus and it was not there in the old syllabus. Hence, this is really important. Am I clear? Am I clear? I hope you're with me. Any problem till here? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead? Okay, just a second. Okay, so now let's start with a new part. Let's start with a new part, part 4, question number 5 and question number 6. Question number 5 and question number 6. What is question number 5 or what is part 4? Give heading. Core competence. Give heading. Core competence. Start giving the heading. Please, part 4, core competence. Now, what is core competence? Boss, core competence means you have something unique in you. You have something unique in you, your uniqueness which is not shared by others. I have something unique in me which is not shared by others. And who has given this? This has been given by C.K. Prahlad and Gary Hamel. This is given by C.K. Prahlad and Gary Hamel. Please remember author's name because in MCQ they can ask who has given the concept of core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? So basically, can I say like this? If I have something unique in me, if I have something unique in me, customers will get attracted, customers will come to me, customers will not go to my competitors. That means I have an edge over my competitors. Again repeating. What do you mean by core competency? Core competency means something unique in you, something unique in you which is not there by others, which is not there by others, and because of which customers get attracted, customers come to me, they don't go to my competitors, they prefer staying with me only, and because of this I have an edge over my competitors. That means I have competitive advantage. Competitive advantage means customers prefer me over my competitors. That means, can I say like this, that core competency is a source of competitive advantage. Second point, core competency is a source. If you are competent, if you have something unique in you, that is a source of competitive advantage. Am I clear? Now come to point number 4. When will you say, mark important, when will you say that you are having core competency? Three criterias are giving. How many criterias? Three criterias. So if your competency meet this three criteria, that means you are having core competency. I'm again repeating. If your competency meet this three criterias, that means you are having core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? Now how we are going to move? 4A is explained in 5.1 like this: 4A 5.1, 4B 5.2 and 4C 5.3. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? I hope I've understood what I'm trying to say. First, in fourth, they've just given the heading, and then they've explained the heading in fifth point. So we'll be doing 4A 5.1, 4B 5.2, 4C 5.3. Am I clear? Now, what are they trying to say? If your competency meet this three criteria, if your competency meet this three criteria, you will always have an edge over your competitors. The first, it should be difficult to imitate by your competitors. That means nobody should be able to copy your core competency. That means you are different from others. That means you are having competitors differentiation. I hope you're understanding what is the first point. First point means, I hope you're understanding, listen to me. My competency, nobody is able to imitate it, nobody is able to copy it. That means my uniqueness is with me only. I am different from others, and that is what attracting the customers. For example, I can take example of iOS. Rest world is giving Android. It's only Apple. iPhone is giving iOS. Getting my point? In that case, can I say that they are different from the competitors? Yes, and nobody else can copy their core competency. Clear? Second point. First will be, it should make a significant contribution to the perceived customer benefits of the end product. See, something can be a core competency only when it is significantly important for the customers. That means customers, your product should have value in the eyes of customers. That means they should prefer buying your product. It should be fundamentally important. It should be fundamentally important for the customer. Customer cannot live without product. Customer cannot live without your product. Get my point? What is it in over here? I'm reading this A point. When purchasing a product or service, it has to deliver a fundamental benefit for the end consumers. It should be fundamentally important for the end consumers. That means they cannot survive without your product. It is that important. Am I clear? Am I clear? And third point, C over here, it should provide potential access to a wide variety of market. What do you mean by this point? Come to point number 3 over here. Your core competency should be applied to all markets. Understand what I'm trying to say over here? See, suppose I am a finance head of a company. I am a finance head of a company. No doubt I'm doing very good, but I must be only supporting finance department and not any other department. In that case, I am not a core competency for that firm. I am not the core competency of that firm. Core competence, somebody can be or something can be core competency only when it supports the whole organization. A finance head, no doubt, agreed. Finance head is important, but he is not supporting the whole organization. I hope you get the point. Hence, that person is not the core competency. Am I clear? For example, if I can give example over here, suppose CEO of a company, Sundar Pichai, if I talk about Google CEO, he is helping the whole organization. So I can say, yes, he is a core competency for them. Am I clear? Am I clear? Getting my point? I hope you're with me. So these 3 points. If these 3 points are there, which 3 points? First, it should not be imitated by your competitors. Second, it should be significantly, it should be fundamentally important in the eyes of the end consumers. And third, it should provide access to potential. Matlab, it should have potential access to wide variety of market. For me, everything should be open because of that core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? So now see examples. Examples of core competency. For first one, boss, why are these examples important? On the basis of these examples, they directly frame a case study. Am I clear? So core competency are often visible in the form of organizational function. See, understand what they're trying to say is anything which helps you is your core competency. They've given example over here of marketing and sales department of Hindustan Limited, Hindustan Unilever. Getting my point? Was HUL's marketing department is a core competency. Why? They can sell anything and they can sell everything. And that is the reason is HUL is able to launch new brands in the market successfully. That means the marketing and sales department of Hindustan Unilever is a core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? Second, a core competence of firm is whatever you do best. For example, Walmart. Walmart's core competency is its low operating cost. Its low operating cost, and because of its low operating cost, when the cost is less, in turn they can keep selling price less and they're able to attract all price sensitive customers. Am I clear? Am I clear? Getting my point? I hope you're with me. Yes. And then point number C and point number D I will be taking today only with question number I think 7. Wait. Yeah, with question number 7 right there. Point C and point D. We refer with question number 7. Am I clear? Am I clear? So what is core competency? Anything which makes, see, three things, which your unique capability, something which is fundamentally very important for the customers, and third is which give you access to wide variety of market. Am I clear? If your competency meet these three criteria, that means that is your core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is question number 5 clear? Can I go ahead? Okay. Come to next question. Question number 6. Now, how to build core competency? How to build? See, understand this competency you need to build in you. Am I clear? So, if this are the 4 things which should be there in your capability to be your core capability. First, it should be valuable. Valuable means, listen to this, valuable capabilities are the one that allow the firm to exploit opportunity or avoid the threat in the external environment. Boss, your competency should be valuable for the firm. That means you are helping the firm to grab all the opportunities and you are helping the firm to overcome the impact of threat. That means you are valuable for the company. Second, rarely, hardly. That means what you have should not be there with others. Core competency are very rare capabilities and very few of competitors possess it. Am I clear? Am I clear? Third, costly to imitate. Nobody should able to imitate it, because if they imitate it, now then it won't be rare. Then it will be available with everybody. Costly to imitate. Costly to imitate means such capabilities that competing firms are unable to develop easily. Am I clear? Am I clear? And fourth point is non-substitutable. It means that what quality you have, its substitute should not be available in the market. Matlab something equal to you. Something equal to you should not be available in the market. In that case, you are non-substitutable. See, capabilities that do not have strategic equivalence, which do not have equivalent, what quality you have, it's nothing in the market is available equivalent to you. That means you are non-substitutable. People have to come to you only because there is nothing equal to you in the market. Am I clear? Am I clear? So these 4 points, are very, very important. Am I clear? This 4 points, which are 4 points? First point, it should be valuable. Second point, it should be rare. Third point should be costly to imitate, and fourth point, it should be non-substitutable. Then only it will be called as a core competency. Clear? Clear? For example, see example of Tata. For years, firm tried to imitate Tata's low-cost strategy, but has been unable to duplicate. They were trying to copy. They were trying to copy, but they were unable to copy it. Why? They did not realize that Tata has a unique culture and attracts some top talents in the industry. The culture and excellent human capital worked in Tata are the basis of its competitive advantage. See, basically, what is Tata's core competency is the culture, the wisdom. Basically, this is the core competency of Tata, and that is the reason why they are at this level. Today only, I have just read about Ratan Tata. He said at this pandemic time, if you're laying off your employees, that means how are you concerned with your people? You can just cannot leave them like this. But this is such an important. Okay, he has this thing agree that nobody is earning, neither company is earning because this lockdown pan world, everybody has got affected economically. But then that's not the time to lay off your people. Okay, if you're getting losses, it's better to reduce the salary, but completely lay off is a very problematic situation. Now, his wisdom, this is the core competency of Tata, and because of this, it has reached to this level. Now, people are thinking that they are having low cost, they're trying to duplicate this low cost, but they don't know the reason behind that. The culture, the wisdom, the people is the core competency of Tata. And second example, competence is deeply aware of Apple's operating system iOS successful model, but nobody is able to copy it. Why? Even they have taken copyright of the same. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is question number 5 and question number 6 very clear? Both talks about core competency. 5 and 6 both talks about core competency with me. Really important. And they ask this in MCQ also. Huh? They will give you this out of this 4 1 and will ask you which one is a part of core competency. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is part 4 clear? Come to next part. Part 5. Question number 7 and question number 8. Question number 7 and question number 8. Give heading. Give heading. Michael Porter's value chain analysis. Give heading. Michael Porter's value chain analysis. Now what is this? See, understand, I'll explain you, then we'll see the language. According to Michael Porter, listen to me here, 7 and 8. And I'm expecting either 7 or 8 in your exam. Either 7 or 8 I'm really expecting in your exam. Am I clear? So now what is this? Value chain analysis. Value chain analysis. According to Michael Porter, there are chain of activities. Listen to the language. According to Michael Porter, there are chain of activities which converts your raw material into finished goods. According to Michael Porter, there are chain of activities which converts your raw material into finished goods. In all the activities, you have to give bare minimum performance. In all the activities, you have to give bare minimum performance. All, but only bare minimum performance is not sufficient. Only bare minimum performance is not sufficient. Then you need to identify in which activity you are unique, you are different, and that is your core competency. Work more on that. That will attract your customers and you will have an edge over your competitors. Again, listen. According to Michael Porter, there are steps or there are activities which converts your raw material into finished goods. Which converts your raw material into finished goods. In all the steps, you have to give bare minimum performance. Bare minimum is compulsory, but it won't solve the purpose. Then identify where are you unique from the others, work more on that, and that will attract the customers. By this, you are able to do value chain analysis. Let's take an example over here. Assume, can I say like this? We have 8 activities. We have 8 activities, 8 papers from foundation to inter. We have 8 activities to convert our raw material into finished goods. Our raw material as of now is foundation, and I want to clear CA intern. So if I work in all these 8 papers, these are the 8 activities. Now, in all the 8 activities, I have to give bare minimum performance. In all the 8 activities, I have to give bare minimum performance, that is 40 each. But only 40 will not solve my purpose. Only 40, see 40 is required. Only 40 is not sufficient, but 40 per paper, bare minimum is required. But only bare minimum will not serve the purpose. Then I need to identify where I am having core competency. I need to identify where I am having core competency. Assume I say that I am good in theory papers. Assume I say that my theory is my core competency. I am unique in theory. For example, I talk about law over here. If I talk about audit over here, if I talk about EIS SM over here, I'll talk about economics over here. So these papers, I won't just try 40, I will score more than that. Am I clear? So assume I go 70, 70, 70 in all these 4 papers. That means 30 extra per paper. In short, 4 into 30, 120. So 440 and I am pass. Don't you people exactly do the same thing? Don't you people exactly do the same thing, that you study all the papers bare minimum so that you get 40, but few people papers you study extra because that will help you to cover your aggregate? What are you doing? You people are doing value chain analysis. Am I clear? Same thing explained by Michael Porter. Michael Porter is saying, see this diagram. This diagram should be there in your exam. If this topic comes, you have to draw this diagram. Am I clear? So according to Michael Porter, there are mainly 2 activities, primary and support. Please don't use the word secondary. You people have taught me that man, it is primary and secondary. After teaching, when I see your answers, you don't write support, you write secondary, boss. There is a reason to write support. Why are they called support? They're called support because they're supporting the primary activities. Why are they called support? Because they are supporting the primary activities. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? So what is this now? Primary first. Primary are 5. Inbound logistics. Shortcut is looms. Inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales and services. Boss, you cannot change the order of primary. Why? Inbound logistics means bringing the raw material inside. Operations means converting the raw material into finished goods. Outbound logistics means taking finished good outside. Marketing means creating awareness of the product, and service means after sales service. Am I clear? So basically, what are this? This 5 are primary activities, and this 5 primary activities have 4 support activities. How many support? 4. Procurement, technology development, HR management, and firm infrastructure. What do you mean by procurement? Procurement means acquiring. Every primary activity you need something or the other. Who will acquire all that? Procurement department. Suppose inbound logistics needs raw material, who will buy? Procurement department. Operations department wants some machineries, who will buy? Procurement department. Outbound logistics want packing material, who will buy? Procurement department. Marketing wants some neo signboards, some glow signboards, who will buy? Procurement department. And services may you want spare parts, who will buy? Procurement department. That means procurement department is supporting all my primary activities. Then technological development. Every primary activity needs technology. It can be a simple technology, but it can be a complex technology. Every primary activity needs a technology. I think from morning to night, we are using only technology now. From morning, from alarm in the night to set the alarm and see, okay, there are few activities, few are very simple technology, few are complex. As of now, what are we doing is complex. Am I clear? So in short, every primary activity needs a technology. Be simple know-how, be complex know-how. Who will arrange technology development? Then HR management. Every primary activity needs employees. Who will right person at the right place at the right time? Who will ensure the recruitment of those people? HR management. And last, firm infrastructure. Primary activity needs infrastructure, they need money, they need resources, they need information. Who will arrange? Firm infrastructure department. That means this four are supporting my primary activities. In short, we have 9 activities, 5 primary and 4 support. In all 9, listen to me, in all 9 you have to give bare minimum performance. In all 9 you have to give bare minimum performance, but only by giving bare minimum it won't work. Only bare minimum will not suffice. You have to identify out of this 9 where are you having a unique quality, unique your core competency, work on that, and that will attract the customers, and others are bare minimum, so you'll be able to have an edge over your competitors. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is Michael Porter's value chain analysis clear? Very clear? Sure. See, read this para number 4. Para number 4, I hope you're with me. Para number 4. Value chain analysis is useful. Value chain analysis is useful in describing the separate activities which are necessary to underpin an organization's strategies and how the link both inside and outside. B point. Although a threshold means minimum competence in all the activities necessary. Minimum competency in all activities necessary. But it is important to identify those competencies which critically underpin the organization's competitive advantage. Understand? See, you have to give bare minimum, but only bare minimum is not sufficient. Then you need to identify where you are different from others, that is your core competency, that will help you to have a competitive advantage. That different thing is called as core competency. Am I clear? So let's see the example which we have just left above. Point number 5, para 5, 5A and 5B. See, they're talking about supermarkets and they're talking about small corner shop. Here they're talking about supermarket and they're talking about small corner shop. See, we were having small corner shop, the vegetable vendors near to our house. And then came the supermarkets like Big Bazaar. Then you have Big Baskets. Am I clear? Now, after the supermarket into picture, come into picture, the small corner shop should die. After such big supermarkets, they should die. Is that like that? No. Why no? There is something which can be done by supermarket which cannot be done by small corner shop, and there's something which can be done by small corner shop which cannot be done by supermarket, and that is the reason both are able to do well. Am I clear? That means now let's see what is a small corner shop can do. This is the core competency of small corner shop. Personal service to customers. Don't you get personal service from small corner shop? They know you personally. Do you get a personal service from Big Bazaar? No. Extended opening hours. They open 7 in the morning, they're there till 10 in the night. Informal credit. Suppose you purchase something for 200 and you have only 150 in your pocket. Will he say 50 ka you remove and then come again and then buy and then pay? No, what they say, okay, you take it, pay me afterwards. Will this be said by Big Bazaar people? Then home deliveries. You buy just 1 kg potato, they will deliver you at your place. These things can be done by small corner shop, but which cannot be done by supermarket. This is core competency of small corner shop. What is Ramesh supermarket now? Low price. Why low price? Because they purchase in bulk. So when they purchase in bulk, they pass on some discount to us. Securing low cost supply, one and the same thing. Then managing in-store activity, everything at one place. Computerized ordering, computerized stock. Nowadays, computerized is common to both, I think. Small corner shop also has a weighing machine, not that this one, but the digital weighing machine. And last is own brand label, which cannot be done by small corner shop. That means everybody should have something unique in them, and that only will attract the customers. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is question number 7 clear? Is question number 7 clear? So now let's come to next question, question number 8. Question number 8, what is the question number 8? The management of internal linkages. Listen to the question now. The management of internal linkages in the value chain could create competitive advantage in a number of ways. Comment. What are they saying? It's a statement. And it's asking you to comment on a statement. What are they saying? That if you have internal linkages in your value chain, if you have internal linkages in your value chain, you can create more competitive advantage. How? Let's understand. See, what are they saying? If you can manage internal linkages in your value chain, chances of competitive advantage increases in number of ways. How? For example, if I take this example, if I take this example, I can say my practical papers are my primary activities and my theory papers are my support activity. Being CA, so practical has to be a primary and theory a support. Now, out of eight papers, assume you say I am good in practical. Practical is my core competency, but you say I am only good in accounts one. You are very good in accounts, but you're only good in accounts one. That means no doubt accounts one is your core competency. It will 100% help you. But if you say like this, I am good in accounts one, I am good in costing, I am good in FM, I am good in accounts two. That means you are having core competency in all practical papers. That means you are having internal linkage between primary and primary activities. I hope you're getting my point. See, saying that I am good in only one primary. If you say like this, I am good only in one primary, no doubt it will help. But it will be helping more if you say I am good in all primary. That means aren't you having internal linkages between primary and primary activities? Am I clear? Second example. Second example. Suppose you say I'm good in theory, but I'm good in only law. What is law over here? Theory paper. That means support actor. So you will say I am good in theory and I am good only in law. No doubt that law people will help you, no doubt about it. But if you say I am good in law, I am good in audit, I am good in EIS and SM, I am good in eco. What are you doing? You are not only having core competency in only one support activity, you are having core competence in many support activities. Chances of clearing becomes high. Am I clear? That means support and support. And third, somebody may say, I'm good in accounts 1 also, accounts 2 also, costing also, I'm good in law also, audit also, EIS also. That means this person is having core competency in primary as well as support. Ranker, you see rankers marks, all subjects bare minimum 70, 75, 80. Am I clear? That means what is happening? Why are they having rank? Because they are having core competency in not only primary activity, in not only support activity, they are trying to have core competency as much as possible. Am I clear? They're trying to have core competency as much as possible. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? So I hope you're with me. So in short, what are they trying to say? See, now let's see the question. The management of internal linkages, the management of internal linkages in the value chain. If you're trying to have internal linkage in the value chain, chances of competitive advantage increases. If I'm good in two things, customers will get more attracted. If I'm good in three things, again more attracted. Am I clear? So in short, you can have three linkages. Linkage between primary, that means primary and primary. Second, linkage between primary and support. And third is linkage between support and support. I hope you're with me. For example, if I take example of second one, primary and support. Suppose the primary is marketing and support is technology. See, you have born in altogether different era. You have born in this era where people do marketing with the help of technology. where people do marketing with the help of technology. That means marketing is primary, technology is support. That means they have internal leakages. But I remember, I'm talking about 20, 25 years back. Suppose we have gone for some vacation. There was no website, nothing. So after reaching that place, suppose I go to Shimla. After reaching Shimla, I used to go and see and visit all the hotels. I used to go and see the rooms, the ambience, and then we used to decide whether we want to stay in this hotel or not. I think day one, at least 2-3 hours, we used to get wasted in this only. But nowadays, is it happening like this? No. What is happening? The hotel people, the motel people have their own website. They click the photographs, they upload on their website. Okay, chalo, by chance, they have a very good photographer who click is a really good photograph, but actually things may not be like this. But then you have people who share their views on the website. Value for money, waste, whatever they want to say. Am I clear? Am I clear? So now what are people doing? People are doing marketing with the help of technology. Am I clear? That means you're linking primary and support. Third example, support and support. Here they have taken example of HR and technology. See, at time you have a very good technology in your company, but you don't have the right people. Or other way around, you have very good people, but you don't have the technology. Waste, both is waste. But if you have best people with best technology, then wonders. Am I clear? That means you are supporting, you are bringing two support activities together. I hope you are getting my point. Am I clear? So in short, if you try to do in this three manner, if you try to link your primary with primary, if you try to link your primary with support, if you try to link the support with support, chances of competitive advantage will increase. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is question number 8 clear? Very clear. Boss, you have to explain this linkage with one example. Okay. Okay. So question number 7 done. Question number 8 done. Now come to next question. Question number 9. Which part? I think part 6. Mark question number 9 important. Why important? It was not there in the old syllabus, has been added in the new syllabus. Question number 9 was not there in the old syllabus, has been added in the new syllabus. Explain the meaning of the term competitive advantage. See, what do you mean by competitive advantage? Competitive advantage means having an edge over my competitors. That means I am 10 times better than my competitors. Why am I better? Because customers come to me and don't go to my competitors. And why are customers come to me? Because I have something unique in me which is not there with others. Something different in me which I only have, which is not there with others, and that attracts the customers to me and they don't go to my competitors. That means I have an edge over my competitors. Am I clear? Am I clear? Let's read this. First point, competitive advantage allows a firm to gain an edge over rivals when competing. It is a set of unique features of a company and its products that are perceived by target market as significant and superior as compared to the competitors. That means you take my product superior than others. Am I clear? Third point, role of resources, capabilities, and value creation in achieving competitive advantage. What is the role of resources? What is the role of capabilities? And what is the role of value creation in achieving competitive advantage? Now, see resources. Resources are tangible also and they are intangible also. Either they are tangible or they intangible. Tangible resources are assets like equipments, manufacturing plants. Won't they help? Of course, yes. If you have resources, it will help you to have an edge. Intangible. If I talk about intangible resources, include assets like your knowledge. Basically, intangible. If I talk assets that typically are rooted deeply in the firm's history and are accumulated over time because they embedded in unique pattern of routine. Intangible resources are relatively difficult for competitors to analyze and imitate. Difficult because intangible, it cannot be seen and it is a part and parcel of your life only. So a competitor will not come to know what is different in you. For example, knowledge, trust between managers and employees, managerial capabilities, organizational routines, scientific capabilities, the capacity for innovation, and the firm's reputation for the goods or service, and how it interacts with people such as employees, customers, and suppliers. What are all this? These are your intangible resources. Nobody will come to know how you deal with employees, how you deal with your customers, how you deal with the suppliers. Nobody will come to know your way of working. Getting my point? How, what trust is there between your manager and your employees? This is what intangible. Again, if this is really good, that can help you to have an edge over your competitors. Am I clear? Next, capabilities. Capabilities exist when resources have been purposefully integrated to achieve a specific task or set of tasks. This task range from human resource selection to product marketing and R&D activities. For example, effective use of logistic management technique. Effective, see, understand what are they trying to say? Capabilities exist when resources have been purposefully integrated to achieve a task. If you want to do something, want to achieve a task, you should use your resources and keep it together. Integrate. I have resources, but I'm not capable, or vice versa won't work. But if I am capable and I have resources, both together will help me to achieve my task. Am I clear? For example, effective customer service. I have resources and I have that capability in me. Innovation, product design, quality. Am I clear? Am I clear? What is it written over here? If a firm possesses resources and capabilities which are superior to those of competitors, then as long as a firm adopts a strategy that utilizes these resources and capabilities effectively, it should be possible for them to establish competitive advantage. Understand? If I have resources with me, if I have capabilities with me which is superior to my competitors, and I am keeping on continuously using them, it will always help me to have an edge over my competitors. Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, fourth point mark important. The sustainability of competitive advantage and a firm's ability to earn profits from its competitive advantage depends upon four major characteristics of resources and capabilities. Understand? My resources should have these four characteristics. My resources and my capabilities should have these four characteristics in it. First, it should be durable, long lasting. It should be non transferable. That means the resources, the capability, what is there in me should not be there with others and nobody should try to transfer it. It should be non transferable. Then imitability. It should be non-imitable. Nobody should be able to copy it. Non-copy means non-imitable. Am I clear? Fourth, it should be appropriability. Appropriability means that my resources and my capabilities is helping me to earn appropriate returns. Am I clear? So this four is the characteristics of my resources, of my capabilities. It will help me to have competitive advantage. What are the four characteristics? It should be durable, it should be long lasting. Second, it should be non-transferable. Third, it should be non-imitable. And fourth, it should be appropriatable. See what is appropriatable? Appropriatable refers to the ability of the firm's owner to appropriate returns on his resource base. Whatever is my resource, I am getting appropriate returns. Am I clear? So these four are my qualities or my characteristics of my resources and my capabilities. It will help me to always continue on having an edge over my competitors. Am I clear? Am I clear? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead? Any problem till here? Is question number 9 clear? Important question from exam point of view. Am I clear? Next one. Question number 10. Again, why question number 10 is important? Because it is a new syllabus question and is not asked till date in your exam. It's a new syllabus question and it's not asked till date in your exam. What is the question? What is value creation? Understand? Once value creation concept was introduced, it was introduced only keeping the customers in point. Only keeping customers in point. That means value for money. That means customers should feel that I have paid less and I've got more. Customer should feel that I have paid less and got more. That means value for money, value creation. But later on, when the concept got more importance, then they felt that why only value creation from customers' point of view? Why not value creation from everybody who is interested in that company? That means why not value creation from stakeholders, not shareholders? Stakeholders means everybody who is interested in that company, government for taxes, bank for loan, employees for salary, creditors for the money, the people who have given advances, everybody, employees, everybody, shareholders who all are interested. Why not value creation from their point of view? Am I clear to see this? First point. The concept of value creation was introduced primarily for providing products and services to customers with more worth. This concept took more space. Third point, this concept took more space in the business, and organizations started discussing about the value creation for stakeholders. Mark fourth point important. This is the definition of value creation. This is the definition of value creation. Thus, we can say that value creation is an activity or performance by the firm to create value that increase the worth of goods. See, what is this? It's an activity or a performance by the firm to create value that increase the worth of goods, the services, the business process, or even the whole business system. That means they are just not increasing the worth of goods, not only the worth of services, but they're trying to increase the worth of the process. In fact, they're trying to change the whole business system. Because if whole business system, I think, if it becomes easy, it will not only help the customers, it will help these stakeholders also. Am I clear? Am I clear? So now let's understand this diagram. Let's understand this diagram. This is a diagram of value creation. Suppose my costing is 200. Just write these numbers. Price is 1000 rupees and value to customer is 1500. Suppose these are the inputs. Firm's cost of value creation is 200 rupees. Firm selling price is 1000 bucks. Value to customer is 1500. So now what is firm's margin? Firm's margin is price minus cost. That means his cost is 200 and selling in 1000 rupees. So margin to firm is 800 rupees. What is customer surplus? See, what is customer surplus means? Tell me how much customer has paid. How much customer has paid? 1000 rupees. But how much customer was ready to pay? What was the value in eyes of customer was 1500. Understand? Suppose I went to buy this pen and I don't know the MRP of this pen. Nothing was written on this. No tag, nothing there. And I decided in my mind that if it is somewhere to 1500, now I'll pay. If it's more than that, then I won't pay. I hope you're getting me. I hope you're getting me. If it's up to somewhere 1500, I'll pay. The moment I asked the shopkeeper how much for this, he said 1000 rupees. I was so happy. I was ready to pay 1500, but it is only for 1000 rupees. That means I paid 1000, but I was ready to pay 1500. I saved 500 rupees. So my surplus is 500 rupees. Am I clear? Value in the eyes of customer. Value in the eyes of customer is 1500, but they paid 1000. That means they felt they paid less and have got more. Am I clear? Am I clear to you? And now tell me, what do you mean by profitable pricing band? Profitable pricing band. See, tell me, what is profitable? As of now, what is cost? 200. Am I clear? So if he keeps 201 rupee, so his profitable pricing band is 1 rupee. His profit is 1 rupee. If he keeps 300, the profit is 100 rupees. If he keeps 400, the profit is 200 rupees. The profitable pricing band, that means how much pricing he can keep. He can keep the pricing somewhere from 201 to 1500. Boss, if I keep selling price 1000, will you buy? Yes. 1100, yes. 1400, yes. 1450, yes. 1500, yes. 1501, no. Because for you, value to customer is 1500. If you charge more than 1500, they are not ready to pay because they don't find worth more than that. Am I clear? So my profitable pricing band can be from 201 to 2500 because 200 is my cost. I'll keep selling price more than that. So my pricing band means range. Band means a range. I'll keep my selling price from 201 to 1500. Am I clear? Am I clear? Please reply. I'm waiting for a reply. Are you people clear till here? Reply. Any point till here, please reply. Waiting for a reply. Everyone clear till here? Okay. Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead? So now let's come to next part of this chapter. Portfolio analysis. Now, question number 11, question number 12. 13, 14 is already done. 15, 16, 17, 18. 11, 12, 15, 16, 17 and 18 is the part of this part. Am I clear? Am I clear? Am I clear till here? Any problem till here? Sure. So now let's come to, and this is one of the most important part. Am I clear? One of the most important part, question number 11, 12, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Okay. Now let's come to this part. Portfolio analysis. See, basically, what is this chapter? This chapter is analysis of the environment. So actually I'm doing analysis. So now let's come to question number 11 and give heading to this part as portfolio analysis. Now tell me, what do you mean by the term portfolio? Portfolio is nothing but collection. Portfolio is nothing but collection. See, rather than saying, if I ask somebody like this, suppose invest, basically you must have heard this term in portfolio investment. Am I correct? Rather than asking somebody into which all, what all places you have invested, I'll ask what is the portfolio of your investment? That means your collection. Suppose you go for a modeling, we don't ask you people portfolio. Portfolio means your collection of your photographs. Am I clear? The portfolio is nothing but collection. Now I can say over here, a company. A company is nothing but portfolio of business. Collection of business makes up a company. Right over here. Collection of business makes up a company. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? So rather than asking somebody like this, into what all business you have invested your money, what will I ask? What is a portfolio of your company? So let's take a practical example over here. Assume, see, understand why I'm doing this. It's very important for a businessman to understand where to put money, where not to put money. We already invested the money, being a wrong decision, withdraw the money back. And such decision cannot be taken just by guesswork. You have to do proper analysis and then only you can take the call. So let's take example over here. Assume, assume I have invested on 1st January 2020 in share market into this 4 shares, 25,000 each. 25, 25, 25, a lakh rupee on 1st January. I had invested a lakh rupee on 1st January. After 6 months, I've called my portfolio manager. I want to invest again. I've called after 6 months my portfolio manager on 30th June 2020. Tell me what is the returns today. He said, ma'am, superb. you had invested a lakh rupee on 1st January. If you sell all the 4 shares today, you will be getting 1,20,000 rupees. That means your profit is 20,000. That means 20% for 6 months. That means 40% in a year. Who is giving you 40% return? Now tell me, after listening to this piece of information, should I again invest in all the 4 shares? After listening to this piece of information, should I again invest in all the 4 shares equally? No. My next question should be, tell me individually which share is giving me how much return. Okay, if you sell A, you will be getting 50,000. 50,000. If you sell B, 40, sell C, 20. So it's 50 and 40, 9, 10, 10 and 10. And if you sell D, 10. So see, if I sell A, I am getting a profit of 25,000. If I sell B, I'm getting profit of 15,000. If I sell C, I'm getting a loss of 5,000. And if I sell D, I'm getting a loss of 15,000. This was plus 20. This was minus 20. So my net is plus 20. Understand? Understand? Now what I should take a call? Invest in A. Invest in B. Withdraw money from C and D. Okay, book a loss of 5,000 in C. Book a loss of 15,000 in D. If you're getting today this much, take this and come out, because today at least you're getting this much. It may happen tomorrow you may not even get this much also. Book the loss of 20,000, come out, and it may happen that there's a better share in the market E. Invest in this. Am I clear? Now understand, isn't this a very important decision from a businessman point of view? Where to invest, where not to invest, where already invested being a wrong decision, withdraw the money back. So in this part of the chapter, we will be studying techniques of doing portfolio analysis. In this part of the chapter, we will be doing techniques of doing portfolio analysis. But before doing portfolio analysis, they have explained a few terms. Let's understand. First, mark this third point important. What's third point? Definition of portfolio analysis. Portfolio analysis can be defined as a set of techniques that help strategists taking strategic decision with regard to individual products or businesses in a firm's portfolio. Boss, I am going to take a strategic decision over here with respect to the product, with respect to the business, where to invest, where not to invest. We already invested, being a wrong decision, withdraw the money back. Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, in this part, we will be studying some techniques of doing portfolio analysis. But before doing the techniques, we should be knowing few terminologies. The three terms: first is SBU, Strategic Business Unit. Second is Experience Curve. Third is Product Life Cycle. SBU is question number 12. Experience Curve is question number 13. And Product Life Cycle is question number 14. Experience Curve and Product Life Cycle is already done from a part. So let's come to question number 12. Strategic Business Unit. Right there, refer chapter 7. As of now, we will not be doing this, but just for a little bit understanding, if I say I have 4 businesses: business A, business B, business C, business D, and all this business makes up my company. All this business makes up my company. So I have 4 strategic business unit. I have 4 strategic business unit. Am I clear? As of now, you just keep that in mind. If you have different businesses, so that they are called as a strategic business unit. When I'll be doing this in depth in chapter 7, because you have 10 pages for this term in chapter 7. Until and unless you don't know all the 10 pages, you won't be able to understand this SBU. Am I clear? Am I clear? So just write there, refer chapter 7. We'll be doing in chapter 7 in depth. Then we already know what is experience curve. Experience curve is learning by doing. When you keep on doing the same thing again and again, your experience increases, your efficiency increases, your wastage decreases, and your cost per unit comes down. Am I clear? Next, product life cycle PLC. X axis you have time, Y you have sales. How many stages? Four stages. What are the four stages? Introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Am I clear? Am I clear? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead? So now let's come to question number 15 and mark this very important. Very important. This is the first technique of doing portfolio analysis. This is also called as BCG, Boston Consulting Group. It's also called as growth share matrix. It's also called as cow and dog metaphor. It's also called as product portfolio matrix. Please remember all the names. What happened? Students very well know what is BCG. They also know what is growth share matrix. They also know what is cow and dog metaphor. But if I ask you to explain what is product portfolio matrix, game over. Why over? You don't know only. And if you come home to check what is product portfolio matrix and you come to know it is BCG, you'll feel like giving yourself a tight slap because this is one of the most easiest topic to answer in the exam. Am I clear? So let's understand. Let's understand. Let's do this product portfolio matrix. Now, when I say I am doing what analysis? When I say what I am doing analysis. So we always know that it's always analysis of environment, which environment external as well as internal. So what has BCG done? BCG has taken two axes, X and Y, X and Y. On X, he has written relative market share, relative market share, and Y he has written market growth rate. On X he has written relative market share, on Y he has written market growth rate. Now let's understand, what do you mean by relative market share? Relative market share means my share in the market. Relative market share means my share in the market. Now, suppose there are 100 students in the market, 80 are coming to me, so my share is 80%. Or if there are 100 students in the market and 10 are coming to me, so my share is 10%. More is my share, is my strength. Less is my share, is my weakness. So basically, X environment represents business strength. Am I clear? That means X and Y. X axis is which environment? It is internal environment. It is internal environment. I hope you're with me. See, relative market share means what? Relative market share means my share in the market. Relative market share means what? My share in the market. So my share is more, it is strength. My share is less, it is weakness. Am I clear? That means X axis talks about strength and weakness. And when I say strength and weakness, that means it's internal environment. Am I clear? Okay. Come to this. Market growth rate. What do you mean by market growth rate? Market growth rate means demand for the product. Market growth rate means demand for the product. That means you will be getting attracted attracted towards a market which has high demand, and you won't be get attracted towards a market which has low demand. Am I clear? So demand, high demand and low demand depends upon the customer. That means this is which environment? High demand, opportunity; low demand, threat. That means this talks about external environment. And market growth rate represents what? Market growth rate represents, it represents market attractiveness. It represents market attractiveness. That means you will be getting attracted towards a market which is high demand, and you won't be getting attracted towards a market which has low demand. Am I clear? Am I clear till here? Any problem till here? Okay, now listen to me. Normally this point is 0 and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. That means this should be low, this should be high normally. But in this theory, this is high and this is low. That means high market share talks about strength, low market share talks about weakness. And if a theory has been given by a theorist, you cannot change it. Am I clear? Am I clear? And here no problem. This is low, this is high. Low market growth rate means threat, high market growth rate means opportunity. So how many cells will I have? Wait. How many will I have? 4. Let's see the characteristics of 4. Am I clear? Please, okay. Let's draw in the end. Let's see the characteristics of all the 4 ones. Suppose I have 4 businesses. How many businesses? 4 businesses. First business is high growth rate, low market share. I hope you know how to read this. Like this, like this. Am I clear? Yes. Then second one is high growth rate, high market share. Third one is high market share, low growth rate. And fourth one is low market share and low growth rate. I hope you're with me. What have I done? I have written the characteristics. I have written the characteristics of all the 4 businesses. Am I clear? Okay. Now before going ahead with Boston Consulting Group, if I want to link this topic with PLC, product life cycle, and you know that there are 4 stages in PLC: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And if I ask you people to reply, I'm waiting for the reply. Out of this 4 business, 1, 2, 3, 4, which one is in introduction phase? Please reply fast. I have 4 businesses: business 1, business 2, business 3, business 4. I have 4 businesses. Tell me, out of this 4 businesses, which one is in the introduction phase? Think and reply. Which one is in the introduction phase? Reply. I'm waiting for the reply. Reply fast. Give me number either 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Here all are very. That means all have done the homework in one sense. All have gone to my videos. Early videos really good. Yes, my business 1 is in introduction phase. Why? See why? What is happening? If I draw this diagram, if I draw a diagram of PLC, because I am new in the market, so my sale is less. No, fourth is wrong. Fourth in no way the answer is. Fourth cannot be the answer. Boss, I can assume why you're saying low growth rate. No, low growth rate nahi. Slowly the growth is increasing. Why I'm entering into a business? Because I can see growth in future. So I won't say low growth rate. Growth rate low is in which phase? Either maturity or decline. I hope you're with me. In introduction phase, slowly my growth is increasing. See, if you see introduction phase, slowly the growth is increasing. Am I clear? So I have entered in that business now, but I have just entered. That is the reason I have low market share. So which is this one? This is introduction phase. Tell me which one is in growth phase? Fast. Which business is in growth phase? Reply fast. Which business is in growth phase? My which business is in growth phase? Reply fast. My business one is in introduction phase. My which business is in growth phase? Exactly. Why to see what is happening over here? Growth is increasing as well as my share is increasing. So which is this one? This is growth phase. Which is this one? This is growth phase. Am I clear? Am I clear? And my business three. See what has happened in business three? I'm already in the top. Now my share is highest, but my growth is coming slowly down. So which is this one? This is maturity phase. And one day my product will enter into which phase? Decline. My share will also come down because growth is coming down. So this is this one? Decline phase. Am I clear? Now, let me come back to BCG. Now, BCG is saying that we have four businesses. Boston is saying that we have four businesses. Business 1, business 2, 3 and 4. And we have done the analysis. Business 1 is high growth rate, low market share. Business 2 is high growth rate, high market share. Business 3 is high market share, low growth rate. And business 4 is low market share, low growth rate. We have done the analysis, and now on the basis of analysis, let's make a strategy. So he has given us four strategy. He has given us four strategy. Come to page number 44, point number 5. He has given us four strategy, which for build, hold, harvest, and divest. He has given me four strategy: build, hold, harvest, and divest. I hope you're with me. Let's understand this four, and then you people will tell me which strategy I'm going to follow for which business. So come to build. What is build over here? Point number 5. Build. Here the objective is to increase market share. My objective is to increase market share, and I know that to increase market share, I have to invest money. I have to put money. Then only my share will increase. Even by foregoing short-term earnings in favor of a strong future with large market share. See, when I say build, when I say I'm talking about build means I want to build my future. For building my future, I'll have to spoil my present, because whatever I'm earning today, rather than enjoying that money, I will be investing that money. But I'm ready to do that because I want a strong future. Am I clear? So what do you mean build over here? Build over here is to invest money to increase market share. Because see, until I don't invest money, I won't be having my outlets, my showrooms, my classrooms. I have to invest money. For that, I'm ready to compromise my present for a better future. First, build. Second, hold. Hold means whatever you have, preserve it. Whatever whatever market share you have, preserve it. Just hold it. Ensure that your share does not comes down. Hold. Third is harvest. Harvest or maximize short-term cash flow. So harvest what has come from agriculture. What do you mean by harvesting agriculture? Cutting the ripe crop. You are cutting the mature crop to sell in the market and get money. So here harvesting means what? I'm harvesting the mature crop, the one which is ripe, so that I can sell it in the market and get the money. That's called as harvest. Here I want to get short-term cash flow. And last is divest. Divest means to sell or liquidate. Understand? Divest also means sell. But here what I'm selling? Rotten crops. See, mature and rotten, hell lot of difference. If you buy a mature mango, you'll pay. Rotten mango, you'll pay, but you'll pay peanuts. So in Divest, when I'm selling in Divest, basically I am selling in peanuts. I am selling which is have no value in the market. Am I clear? So there are four strategies: build, hold, harvest, and divest. Build, hold, harvest, and divest. Now you people tell me, business one, think and answer. Don't jump into a conclusion. Think and answer. Business one, what should be my strategy? Reply. Business one, when I have high growth rate and my share is less, what should be my strategy? Reply fast. I'm waiting. Build. Okay, others? Chandan has replied me build. Others? What should be my strategy for business one? Okay. Boss, not necessarily. Okay, Chiki, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Boss, here I have two options. Build, hold is wrong. What to hold? I don't have share only. Build or divest. Understand? Understand? See, normally what will come to my mind? Let me build because growth rate is there. So the moment I'll put money, I'll be able to build it and I'll move from business one to business two. I'll enter into PLC growth phase. But understand, suppose I have entered into a business to build that business, and the same business Mr. Ambani has also entered. Now he is financially very strong. He will be able to build it and he will move from phase one to phase two. I am not able to build in front of him. I am not able to build in front of what I need to do. Come out, divest, sell it off, and come out. Am I clear? So this is one of the most dangerous business. Am I clear? So we call this business as question mark business. It's also called as problem child or also called as wild cats. Understand? For a businessman, it's a difficult situation to decide whether should I build or not. Because if I'm able to build it, nothing like it. I'll move from introduction phase to growth phase. But if I'm unable to build, I have to come out by incurring losses. So it's a question mark whether to build or not to build. It's a problem business. What should I need to think what to be done? See, if a product die after decline phase, so I can understand, yeah. Everybody one day have to die. Every product one day will enter into decline phase. But something in introduction phase only comes out, then it's not good now. Am I clear? Am I clear? Okay. Second one, tell me what need to be do to business two. Business two is further build. Why? See, this is my growth phase from year to year. Further build it. Am I clear? Third one, okay, that is the reason they've called this a star business. Why? Because here you are getting, but yeah, to further build it, you have to invest money. To further build, you have to invest money. Initially, it may not give you that much returns, but it will give you later stage. Am I clear? Third business. Third business. What to be done? Was you already here? Already here. Am I clear? What need to be done over here? No need to further invest. Better you hold it. Yesterday only I have explained you people, the best phase is maturity phase. The best phase is maturity phase because till the time you enter into maturity phase, you have already recovered all your fixed costs, and in maturity phase, too much money is not needed. And in maturity phase, too much money is not needed. So here, whatever is your contribution is profit. Hence, it is called as cash cows. Build what to hold. And if you feel, see, if you feel holding, till what time you should hold? When you feel that you are able to preserve your market share. But if you feel that your market share is slowly coming down, harvest at right time and come out. It's mature now, completely mature. Harvest and right time and come out. If you don't harvest at right time and come out, it will enter into which phase? Decline phase, and then you have to divest here. And decline phase, I've called it as dogs. Am I clear? Is BCG clear? Is BCG very clear? Please explain me. Is this very clear? Am I clear? I have in business one, I'll try to build it. If not able to build, I'll divest it. So it's very important to take a call before entering. Can you build it or not? Second, further build it. Third, hold it. Because this is a place where you're going to try to preserve your market share as much as possible. But if you feel that the market share is going down, right time harvest, cut, sell, and come out. But if you don't harvest at that time, then you'll enter into which phase? Decline phase, and that time you'll have to divest, sale in peanuts, and have to get some peanuts only. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is this clear? Please reply. Is BCG clear? Very clear. Sure, boss. Again, I'm saying chapter 2 is very important. Today, almost today also, my most time is going in chapter 2 only. Yesterday also was completely chapter 2, and day 4, out of day 4, almost 2 days we are done with chapter 2 only. Am I clear? Am I clear? Can I go ahead? So is BCG clear? Is BCG clear? Very clear. So that means what am I doing? I'm going to put money in business 1. I'm going to put money in business 2. Business 3 will be giving money to put in business 1 and 2. See, no businessman bring money from home. They do the rotation from one business to another business. So if you see this diagram on page number 45, see question mark. New ventures, risky. Few become stars, others are divested. The one who are able to build, they become stars. The one who are not able to build, they will divest it. Then stars, rapid growth and expansion. Cash cows. What are cash cows? Ability to fund question marks and stars. Question marks need money. Stars need money. Who will give them money? Cash cow will give them money. Am I clear? Am I clear? And dogs, low market share and growth. Consider divestment. Am I very clear? Is BCG very clear? Any problem? Can I go ahead? So now let's come to next technique. Let's come to next technique of portfolio analysis. And the next technique of portfolio analysis is question number 16, page number 47. Explain General Electric model or stop light strategy model. Explain General Electric model or stop light strategy model, and why do I teach this technique exactly after BCG? Why do I teach this technique exactly after BCG? Because it is linked to BCG, understand? It is linked to BCG. How? Are you okay with me? What are we studying? General Electric model, or it's also called as stop light strategy. Why it is called as stop light strategy? The reason behind that is it is based on traffic signals. Stop light. It's based on traffic signals. To wait, I'll come to that point. But just keep in mind, it is based on traffic signal. So we call this as stop light strategy. Now, why do I teach this topic exactly after BCG? The reason behind that is, again, they are also saying that take two x's, x and y. Okay, let me change the color. X and y. Again, that's very clear. So when are we doing analysis? When are we doing what analysis? Analysis has to be internal versus external. Analysis has to be internal versus external. Now, what have we taken on X over here? Relative market share. Am I clear? So BCG is taking relative market share to for internal environment, but G is saying that is my strength because of only one reason, that I have high market share. Is it the only reason? No, boss. You can have various factors, as in I have high market share, I have high profit margin, I have good brand image in the market, I have good distribution team, my customers are loyal towards me, I have a good production capacity, my cost is compared to less than my competitors, I have a good team of management. That means you can have strength because of n number of factors and not only one factors. You can have strength because of n number of factors and not only one factor. BCG has considered only one factor, that is market share. G is saying why one, why not all? So what has G done? G has replaced relative market share with business strength. Relative market share with business strength. The why to consider only one factor. Why one, why not all? Why one, why not all? Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, what is then Y over here? Y means market, Y over here is market growth rate, and you are getting attractive towards the market. See, we've already written over here market attractiveness, that you are getting attracted towards the market, which is high growth rate. So again, BCG has considered only one factor, high market growth rate. G is saying that boss, there are many factors which because of which you may get attracted towards the market, as in size of the market, market growth rate, industry profitability is very high, competition is less, overall risk is less, technology is easily available. That means they are saying that market can be attractive because of many factors and not only one factor. BCG has considered only one factor. G is saying why one, why not all? So G has replaced market growth rate over here with market attractiveness. Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, next, in BCG, we are written high over here, low over here. That means 100 students are there, 80 are coming to me. So my strength is high. 100 are there and 10 are coming to me. So my strength is low. But if 100 are there and 50 are coming to me, medium. Medium is not considered by BCG. I hope with me. BCG has only considered high and low, but G is saying there is something called as medium also. Same over here. Low, medium, high. So how many business will you have over here? 9. 6, 9, 9. Am I clear? Am I clear? Now, suppose this is my business 1 and this is my business 9. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? Now, what is 1? What is the characteristics of 1? What is the characteristics of 1? High plus high. That means high strength and high market attractiveness. And 9 is both are low. 9 is both are low. What is this one? High plus medium. High plus low. Medium plus low. Medium plus medium. Medium plus high. Low plus medium. Low plus high. That means we have written characteristics for all. Now I want to make a strategy according to characteristics. But before coming to the strategy, it is very important for me. It's very important for me to understand the traffic control lights. To understand, wait a minute. To understand the traffic control lights. I hope you're with me. To understand the traffic control light. And traffic control light, we have 3 colors. Which 3 colors? Red, amber, and if I write green, it will come in black over here because green is the base color in this whole system. So it will become black over here. I hope you're with me. Now, red means, what do I red over here? Stop. Red means stop. Don't cross the road. Green means go. Amber is caution. Amber is caution. That means wait and watch. What you need to wait and understand. See, basically how traffic control signal works. It's red, amber, and green. And another one is green, amber, and red. Understand? You need to understand which amber is this. Is this after red or after green? If it is after red, that means going to become green. That means get ready. Here you have to get ready. And here it's going to become red. That means slow down. Slow down. That means amber you need to think. For example, red. If you see signal red, stop. Signal green, go. But if it's yellow or amber, you have to see which yellow, which amber is this. Is it after red or after green? If it's after red, that means going to become green, get ready. If you have stopped your vehicle on it, slowly start giving accelerator, that's it, get ready. And if it's green, if it's amber after green, it's going to become red, that means slow down because you won't be able to cross the road. Am I clear? Same over here. Red means don't invest. Green means invest. Amber, think. Let's come over here. Talk about my first business. First business. Tell me. This both are high. High in strength and high market attractiveness. No second thought. Invest. Am I clear? Come to the ninth one. Ninth one. And both are low. In fact, divest. If you've already invested, come out. Am I clear? Come to this one. This one. What is happening over here? One is high and another is low. One is high and another is low. I am neither saying yes and neither saying no. Let me think. Here it is. Sorry. Here it is. Yellow. Like this, you can plan for everything. But why always logic? At times magic. So let's go for magic. Let's draw a line diagonally upward. I hope you know that line is always drawn from this point and not from this point. Am I clear? Draw a line diagonally upward. Wherever this line is cutting is yellow, yellow, yellow. Below this is red, red, red. Above this is green, green, green. Am I very clear? Am I, and logically also can see if this is both are high, no second thought, invest. One is medium, one is high. Yeah. What else you want? Both high, is very rarely it happens. Here it is also one medium, one high, green. Am I clear? Here one is high, one is low. Let me think. Both are medium. Let me think. Again one high, one low. Let me one high and one high and low. Let me think. Here one is medium, one is low. Harvest and come out. Right time to harvest and come out. Same, harvest and come out. And this is so you'll have to divest. Am I clear? Am I clear? Where to put money, where not to put money. Getting my point or not? Am I clear? Where to put money, where not to put money, and if already invested the money, come out, and where you need to caution. Am I clear? So this is called as General Electric model. It's also called as stop light strategy model. It's also called as 9 cell model. Why? Because we have 9. On X you have business strength. On Y you have market attractiveness. Am I clear? Am I clear? It's very simple. Am I clear? Can I go back to this question 16 clear? Am I clear? Now come to question number 17. What is question number 17? Explain ENSOF product market growth matrix. Again, a very important one. Explain ENSOF product market growth matrix. So let's understand. Let's understand. See, growth. I want to grow in my business. I want to grow in my business. Before starting with growth, if I ask you people to define the term business, if I ask you people to define the term, I want to grow my business. So if I ask you people to define the term business, what will you say, ma'am? buying, selling, manufacturing, trading, and nowadays service industry is also business. Yeah, that's I think the basic definition which we studied in 11th standard. Right, clear? Or state of being busy is business, or mind your own business. Agreed. But if you ask me, what is business? Business is nothing but a combination of product plus market. You ask somebody, what are you doing? I have a grocery business in Pune, grocery product Pune market. What if I say, I teach SM in Bangalore, SM is my product, Bangalore is my market. I teach tax in Mumbai, tax is my product, Mumbai is my market. That means I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say. If you ask anybody what business are you doing, they will reply about product and market only. Am I clear? Am I clear? So now if I want to expand my business, I want to grow my business, business expansion or growth can be done in two ways. It can be done in two ways. First is intensification. First is intensification and second is diversification. First is intensification and second is diversification. Now, what is intensification? Intensification means growing in your existing business. Growing in your existing business, existing. You're expanding your existing business, you're growing your existing business is called as intensification. That means intensification can be further done in three ways. Either my product should be existing or market should be existing or both of them should be existing. That means existing product, existing market, existing product, new market, new product, existing market. At least one should be existing. Then only I can say that I am growing in my existing business. That means I've done intensification. Existing product in existing market or existing product in new market or new product in existing market. The first one is called as market penetration, market penetration, or it's also called as market concentration. Market concentration. I hope you're with me. Second one, what is new in second one? New market. Second one is called as market development. Second one is called as market development. And third one is called as product development. Third one is called as product development. I hope you're with me. Yes. Now let's take example over here. Existing product in existing market. How that can be done? Understand? By greater spending on advertisement. Neither I'm changing the product nor I'm changing the market. I'm just spending more on advertisement. If I say in Hindi, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. Ads psychologically affects you. If you keep on seeing an ad again and again, it psychologically affects you. And the moment you go to the shop, and if you have seen the ad, that product will immediately come here. Second, personal selling, door to door. Supported pricing strategy. I'm trying to give a discount. And fourth, the most important one, efforts on increasing usage by existing customer. I'm putting efforts to start using it more. For example, I can take example over here of Dettol antiseptic. Let's example over here. Dettol. So Dettol was normally used for cut, burn. That means you have hurt yourself, so you're applying Dettol. Like an antiseptic as to clean that area so there is no germs, and then you put some ointments and you just bandage it, right? I got to know, I'm like concerned, yaar, how much nowadays cut and burn, nothing happens. People are very much, people take too much precautions nowadays. So I wanted to increase my sales. I wanted to grow, but in the same product and the same market. So I started putting efforts and you started using more Dettol. So I understood that nowadays people are very conscious. So I've attacked on that only. Because if you're so conscious towards your health, you should be conscious towards hygiene also. Am I clear? So I'm saying whenever you take bath, add 2 drops of Dettol. Whenever you wash clothes, add 2 drops of Dettol. Whenever you clean the floor, add 2 drops of Dettol. In this pandemic is going on, you need to clean your house. Don't you say you have to sanitize it, clean it, handles, the wardrobes, everything what you keep on touching, the table, to add 1 drop of Dettol in the water and then clean it. Getting my point? What am I doing? I'm putting efforts that I'm putting an effort so that its usage increases. Automatically, when usage will increase, bottle will get over fast and you will buy more and more. I have not even changed the product, nor I have changed the market. Am I clear? Am I clear? Is this clear? Am I clear? For the second one, market development. Market development means I'm selling the existing product in a new market. I started teaching SM for the first time in Mumbai. I started teaching SM for the first time in Mumbai, and then I started teaching SM in Bangalore and Hyderabad. What I did, my product is saying I'm just entering a new market. To see over here, market development is a growth strategy where a business seeks to sell its existing product in a new market. How? By new geographical market or by new distribution channels. I'm selling my SM book on this Amazon. So book is same, market is new. Am I clear? Third, new product in existing market. I started teaching SM in Mumbai for the first time, and then when I started teaching indirect taxes, new product in existing market. Why? When I was teaching SM to them, they were happy. So I thought, let me experiment a new subject that to a place the student already know me. So at least they will have that one positive thing in their mind. So, okay, ma'am, if taught SM, we will be able to understand SM. If ma'am is teaching tax, we'll be able to understand that also. Am I clear? Getting my point? So I am teaching new product in existing market. It's called product development. Towards product development, new product in existing market. It's a strategy of firm offering modified or a new product. Modified or a new product. Am I clear? Am I clear? And what's the next one? Diversification. Diversification means growing, growing by way of entering into new market. Growing by way of entering into new business, not market, sorry, new business. New business. And when I say new business means new product and new market. Because when I say business, business is nothing but what? The combination of product and market. So completely new business means new product and new market. And in chapter 4, we will be studying types of diversification. Chapter 4 will be teaching us type of diversification. Am I clear? Am I clear? Can I go ahead? Is this clear? Very clear. So who has explained this topic? Ansoff. Iger Ansoff. Iger Ansoff has given us product, market. See, what is this? Product, market, growth matrix. What is this? Product, market, growth matrix. Am I clear? Am I clear? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead? To come to the next question. What's the next question? Question number 18. Explain ADL matrix. Explain ADL matrix. I hope you're with me. Again, this is a technique of doing portfolio analysis. This is a technique of doing portfolio analysis. And whenever I say analysis, analysis has to be external versus internal. Analysis has to be external versus internal. He also has taken 2 parameters. He also has taken 2 parameters. First is stages of industry, stages of industry maturity, stages of industry maturity, and second is forms competitive position. Forms competitive position. So now answer first. If I ask you people, what do you mean by stages of industry maturity? Can you people link it with something I've already taught you people? Answer. Tell me, what do you mean by stages of industry maturity? Reply fast. What do you mean by stages of industry maturity? Reply. What do you mean by stages of industry maturity? Have I taught you something like that? Yes, was stages is nothing but maturity. Industry mature stages, maturity stage, that means talk about PLC, perfect. PLC. But I think, see, okay, PLC, how many are there? Four. How many are there? Four. Which four? Introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. We have said this four phase in PLC, but I think this person has come from science background. Why? For introduction, he has used the word embryonic. Embryonic is basically, see, a newborn baby is called as infant. Stage before that is called as embryo, embryonic introduction phase. Then luckily, science in science growth is called as growth. Luckily, in science maturity is called as maturity, and in science decline is called as aging. In science, decline is called as aging. I hope you're with me. Am I clear? So how many are there? Four are there. Which four? Embryonic, growth, maturity, and aging. In fact, I can draw a diagram over here. I can draw a diagram over here. But in this diagram, I'll be writing over here embryonic, growth, maturity, aging, time, and sales. What is embryonic? Growth phase. Slowly the sale is growing. What is growth? Rapid market acceptance. What is maturity? Slow down in growth rate. And what is aging? Sharp downward drift. Am I clear? Am I clear? Stages. What is second here said? Forms competitive position. What is the second one? Forms competitive position. What do you mean by this? My position in the market. Forms position in the market, and they have given us five position: dominant, strong, favorable, tenable, weak. How many positions he has given? Five. Dominant, strong, favorable, tenable, and weak. What about dominating? Dominating means either monopoly. And if there is no monopoly, I am strong and a protected technological leader. For example, I can use this for Apple. Apple is not having monopoly, but still Apple is dominating at a dominating position. Why? Because they are strong and they are protected technological leaders. When it comes to iOS, they are protected by copyrights. Am I clear? Second, strong one. Second stage strong. Here they are not having monopoly, but still all competitors are strong because everybody have their own choice of strategy and is often able to act without its market position being unduly threatened by its competitors. Means everybody has their own way of doing the business and nobody's trying to step in somebody else's shoes. I have my own way of working and nobody's trying to copy me. That is, I am having a strong position. Am I clear? Favorable. What is favorable over here? Favorable means over here industry is fragmented. Why is situation favorable for me? Industry is fragmented. Fragmented means divided into parts. Fragmented means divided into parts. Am I clear? And no one competitor stands out clearly. See, when it is into parts, there is no one person. Every part has its own person, and that person is enjoying that part. For example, if I bring a cake in the class, the moment I cut the cake into pieces, that means I fragmented the cake, and everybody is getting one piece. So all are having favorable position. For this, tenable. Tenable means manageable. In science, you say tenable. In commerce, you're saying manageable. See, I am moving from strength to weakness. Basically, basically, this is what your strength and weakness. And basically, what is this? This is opportunity and threat. Maturity is not in your control. So if it is growth phase, it's opportunity. It's decline phase or aging, it is threat. Am I clear? So when I'm saying that I was dominating position, that's my strength. I had strong position, it's my strength. I have favorable position, it's my strength. But now I'm moving towards tenable and weak. Tenable means I'm able to manage. But still, there are proactive companies in the market, and if they are strong, it will be difficult for me. And last week, I am not performing at all, even there is scope of improvement. Am I clear? Who has given all this? This has been given by ADL, Arthur D. Little. Given by ADL, Arthur D. Little. Am I clear? Am I clear? So by this, we are done with one more part of portfolio analysis. Am I clear? Am I clear? We are already done with question number 19 and question number 20. 19 talks about SWOT analysis. 20 talks about Tau's matrix. Maxi mini maxi we have done yesterday only. And the last part of this chapter, question number 21 and question number 22, please write the heading globalization, and that's a homework. Globalization. I'm not going to teach you globalization. What is globalization? Integrating the whole world into one huge market, no boundaries, no geographical boundaries, no trade boundaries, nothing, no political boundaries. Whole world as one huge market, and this came in 1991. LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. LPG 1991. Am I clear? Am I clear? So what is question number 2? I'm just giving a bare reading of question number 22 over here. Why companies go global? First, they want to grow. Whether if there is no boundaries, why will I restrain myself? I am selling my stuff in US. It's not US. My customers are there, so I'm growing there. Second, shrinking of time and distance. Now, because of this, time and distance is decreasing. Third, domestic market is no longer adequate and rich. See, Japan has flooded the US market with automobiles and electronic because the home market was not large enough to absorb whatever they have produced. Understand? Japan is the domestic market and US is foreign market. So what they have done, they have flooded, they have exported everything in US because whatever they have produced was not getting absorbed in their home country. Fourth, to get cheaper and reliable source of raw material and labor. Why are all MNCs coming into India? Why? Cheap labor. Population of India, cheap labor. They earn in dollars and here they pay in rupees. Fifth, companies often set up overseas plant to reduce high transportation costs. If I can see wherever I can find my raw material, I'll open my factory there only. Na? Why to bring raw material here and then again send? Better to open your overseas plants so transportation costs get reduced. 6th point, foreign market becomes large enough to justify foreign investment. See, I'm ready to invest in foreign market provided I want returns. So if I can see that there is a demand for my product, I will invest there. That means foreign market has become large enough. Why are MNCs, why McDonald's, why foreign companies have come to India? Because they see that potential in India, they see sales in India. For them, India is foreign market and they've invested in India because they can justify their investments. Next, trade and custom barriers have removed. And last, formation of regional blocks. Formation of regional blocks. The regional bloc like SAARC, like NAFTA. India is part of SAARC. What is SAARC? South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, where there are 8 countries coming together. Why they came together? Because of globalization. Am I clear? Am I clear? Sure. So by this we are done with chapter 2 completely. That means we are done with chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. To some extent, I think we have done 50 or maybe 60% of chapter 5 also. Am I clear? So what is my planning? Okay, I'll be going tomorrow with chapter 4 only, and after chapter 4 we'll be doing chapter 5. Am I clear? Am I clear? So I'm done for the day. Again, I'm saying please do write notes. Okay, there's a query how to write notes, boss, as if you're writing the exam. No headings. Heading will be a second type of notes which will be helpful for a day before the exam to just revise the headings and go. But today you'll be writing as you're writing the exam, each and everything. What is coming to mind? Ma'am, you're writing exactly the same. That's okay. In the exam, you're going to write exactly the same. But the best way to study is only by writing and practicing. Am I clear? Okay. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. Please study, focus on exam, and rest. Forget everything. Okay. Take care. Bye bye. Good night.